Hello, welcome to Mike's Mets Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Pashota. Happy Wednesday to you. We are going through it has to be said, probably the worst stretch of the New York Mets season thus far. We are feels like a significant free fall that was interrupted by just a great walk-off win this weekend on Sunday. But we've just been, since then, repeatedly pummeled. We just watched the Mets lose a doubleheader to the Los Angeles Dodgers, which wasn't really that surprising. The Dodgers are obviously one of the best teams in the National League. They're feeling really good, and right now it doesn't feel particularly great to be a Met fan. And this is how it kind of felt like a year ago. I was just looking through the archives of the podcast and looking at the episodes from last year, and it was around this time in like late May that we felt like a similar way about New York, about the Mets team. And this is obviously a much different team. That last team was financially bloated with contracts to Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, and others. And this year we're dealing with more just inconsistent performances. I guess could be said was also a problem last year. I guess inconsistent isn't even really the word. I think it's just bad. I think the team's just played very poorly. We've seen the Mets bullpen really come under a lot of fire the last 2 weeks. I guess it's been now pretty much since Edwin Diaz started lighting a dumpster fire and looking like 2019 Diaz again. This is last week. Last podcast I said this same issue, which is that Diaz was threatening to become 2019 Diaz again, and he is looking very much like that again. That same player seems to be lacking confidence. We've seen Carlos Mendoza move Diaz out of the closer role, sort of as a way to kind of like regain his confidence and not worry about the pressure anymore. I thought we were done with this version of Diaz. Unfortunately, we're not. So what we're experiencing now is just kind of like, okay, we're back to dealing with that. And the Mets bullpen, which was early on one of the team's biggest successes, is now looking like a major struggle point. They can't seem to get through these games late anymore, and they're not finding the good performances from the personnel anymore. And take what you will. I guess you could say they got off to a good start. It was maybe a little bit of non-familiarity with guys like Reed Garrett and stuff like that, and it was just never going to last. But it's been pretty shocking to see them all kind of just crumble at once. But the Mets bullpen isn't what the topic I want to talk about. The topic that's been gaining traction and it's been finding its way into organizations like WFAN, and I've seen articles written from various news outlets. And the topic is Steve Cohen. And there's nothing, it's not a personal reason. It's not related to some kind of off the field, some like controversy that Steve Cohen's going through. There's no issues with Cohen, potentially being in a financial meltdown or any kind of problem like that. The problem that people have now want to sort of invent is that Cohen is somehow bad for the New York Mets franchise. And I've seen people, let's say on Twitter, various like comment sections and fan pages calling for Cohen to sell the team. And it's one thing for like professional trolls to like say this stuff. I fully expect people to be like, "Oh, well, Steve Cohen should just sell the team because they're doing badly." No, not a good idea. That's one thing. I don't really fully get why you get that like same kind of built up from respectable, I guess, organizations who are willing to sort of throw their own weight behind this, and I don't fully get that. It's pretty bizarre, and when I see stuff like that, I'm like, it wasn't that long ago that the Wilpons owned the team, right? Like I'm like, what year is it? It's 2024, right? They were owning the team up till 2020, and it feels like people just forgot. I don't really know what happened. Now, the Wilpons are, I guess, one end of the spectrum, which is to say that they are the worst end of the spectrum. The Wilpons, Fred and Jeff, were the most atrociously bad owners. It got to be in the top 10 of all professional sports ever. And that's to say that they were just absolute train wrecks who couldn't field a respectable team. And the reason why was that they didn't want to pump any money into the team because they were broke. They were not say not broke, but they were not in a position to make a profit. I guess that would be the case if they spent too much money. And because they are professional sports owners, somehow owning a franchise in New York. I don't want to go too far back in time, but they were owning this team for, let's say, 20 years, and made a lot of financially controversial choices, I guess we could say. They were very poor owners. Steve Cohen, since he's arrived in New York, has said everything right. He has put every bit of money into generating a new organization. This is not something that happens overnight. As much as Cohen probably thought it could happen overnight, I think there is certainly an idea that Cohen felt, which was why he made that kind of very bold proclamation when he took ownership of the team, was that the Mets were going to win a World Series in 5 years. We're coming up on 5 years very shortly, so it doesn't seem likely that Cohen's prediction is going to come true. And I think Cohen felt like, oh, well, I can, if I acquire the best players who are the most high-priced talent, then I can make this team sort of turn around overnight and get them to that contention and World Series win much faster. And Cohen certainly did that. He has put a lot of money into this team, whether it was signing after they trading for and signing for Francisco Lindor, signing Max Scherzer, signing Justin Verlander, signing Starling Marte, signing Edwin Diaz, Brandon Nimmo. He has invested hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into this Major League team. And not just the Major League team, he has invested a lot of money also into the Citi Fields, pumping a lot of money into not just the overall apparatus of Citi Field, but also their facilities, making sure that everything is state of the art at Citi Field. He didn't want to see anything that would be considered lesser than, buying a new big screen, 4K screen for the fans to see all the plays on. He has put everything into this team and made it look like $1 million, which is to say, let's say $1 billion is probably a little bit more of a tracks a little bit more with Steve Cohen, but he has also invested a lot of money into the minor leagues. He is trying to redevelop this farm system that was laid barren, and trying to cultivate a sense of, we can get these young players and keep building these young players up and draft well, and looking to an organization like the Dodgers as sort of an example, and saying, like, we need to build like the Dodgers do, which is we need to have the best young prospects coming up through our system, and that means drafting well and making sure that we acquire good talent. He's also invested a lot of money into our analytics department. There's really no shortage of what he has done in terms of making this team, which was laid bare. They had pretty much nothing in the way of anything meaningful under the Wilpon tenure, which was the fact that the Wilpons simply couldn't afford a quality like analytics department or quality trainers or quality really anything. And Cohen came in and put his money where his mouth was. He said, I'm going to invest this money. He did it. He did everything that he's been asked to do. And I guess the feeling, I suppose, is that they're like, oh, well, Cohen's doing like too much now. Like, and it's just like, it's the various projects. It's the sports complex that they're going to be building next to Citi Fields, a soccer arena for the New York Football Club, and hoping eventually, I suppose, to be like a venue that they can have like the Olympics. I don't know. I don't totally understand that part, but then also trying to build an $8 billion casino project also in this area. He's trying to like renovate this whole like Flushing Meadows area and make it this sort of like state of the art complex area where he has everything. Like he has a baseball stadium, a football club, and a casino, everything in one place. I guess is maybe the primary thing that people are starting to feel like that he's sort of manipulating this for his own means, and he's a professional sports owner. I don't really know what people were expecting here, but they're basically like, oh, he's trying now to like use the Mets as a way to sort of line his own coffers and build this casino project that doesn't need to be there, and he's I honestly have no opinion about the casino project. If he wants to build it, great. You know, gambling's legalized in New York, so why not? But it's I really I do find it pretty bizarre. The hatred against him, or not even the hatred. It's just like this pushback where people were trying to say like it's somehow Cohen's fault. And I get that. You know, you have it shit rolls downhill. You have to have the guy at the top has to kind of take it on the teeth and say, we're not doing well, it's my fault. And Cohen has done that. Like Cohen has never like said anything to the contrary. He's never thrown anybody under the bus. He hasn't Steinbrennered it. He hasn't said, oh, well, this is your fault. I could say probably maybe the Buck Showalter situation was probably the most Steinbrenner thing that's happened under Cohen's tenure. I mean, that felt like a little grimy, and there were, Showalter had not done well, I think, that season, but it was a little uncalled for, just like out of nowhere fire him. I don't really know what to say about that. I honestly feel like Showalter could probably be doing better than Carlos Mendoza, but it's always been my personal opinion that managers don't really do that much for the team anyway, and that they're just kind of these sort of middle management figures that just exist there to kind of take the blame and be fired whenever the team doesn't perform well. I always put it more on the players than the actual manager, but that's that. To throw it all on Cohen, though, and say that Cohen is somehow bad for the New York Mets franchise, well, no. And if he's going to sell his team, who's he going to sell it to? Who? Alex Rodriguez? Like, where would we be now? I don't totally get it. I just don't understand. Like he's the wealthiest sports owner in Major League Baseball, selling it to some other entity, let's say some corporation or whoever, some investing enterprise wants to come in and buy it from Cohen. Cohen says, I'm done with it, and they buy it and they sell it to them. What are you getting here? Steve Cohen's a lifelong Mets fan. He has made it his dream. This is his childhood dream, was to own the team and be able to kind of guide them towards a World Series title. And because things have not gone super correct in the last 4 years, basically the team's been playing under 500 under Cohen's tenure. Not that the Mets are doing really great under the Wilpons, but apparently we need to throw it more on Steve Cohen as well. I guess because he is so wealthy, and there is this sort of enormous set of expectations that he himself kind of also threw on the team. You have this sense of, okay, Cohen, where is our World Series title? And why are we not there? How come you aren't doing enough on your part? Why aren't we acquiring the best players? Why couldn't we get Shohei Ohtani? And this is now becoming this sort of latent resentment, I guess, towards Cohen for not being able to sign Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, whomever. And then if they strike out for the third time on Juan Soto, that's when people are going to start coming for his head for real. This is sort of we're in sort of the simmering period of Met fan resentment towards Steve Cohen. Resentment that's built out of nothing, really. It's built out of how are we not World Series champions yet? You said you would do this. If they strike out on Juan Soto in free agency, if the Yankees keep Juan Soto, which I'm starting to feel is more and more likely going to happen. I mean, Juan Soto's absolutely killing it for the Yankees. I don't know why he would leave, other than the fact that they can't afford him. That's basically the only thing the Mets have going for them, that they have more money than the Yankees, and they can probably make the offer for what Soto wants, which is that the Yankees cannot afford Juan Soto. I think I don't really know their financial like limitations in this case. I suppose in a theoretical sense they could sign him, but if Soto wants to go to the highest bidder in this case, it would probably be the Mets. The Dodgers, I think, have exhausted themselves at this point. They cannot throw any more money at another superstar. So let's take them out of the equation. So you really have basically the Mets and the Yankees involved in this, and it feels like he's absolutely destroying. I mean, like in combination with Aaron Judge, those two are absolutely killing it in New York, not in New York, but also not for the Mets. For the Yankees, they are. So I don't know why he would come here. He's like, I guess for the money, it would be a purely financial like enterprise. They don't have much of a team around them at present, and the only thing you can say is really basically like, okay, like, can they re-sign Pete Alonso? Alonso hasn't played particularly great this year. Jeff McNeil. McNeil's been terrible. Francisco Lindor, very underwhelming for the early returns on Francisco Lindor. Edwin Diaz has been horrific. They don't really have a starting pitching staff to speak of. We're waiting for Kodai Senga to come back. Francisco Alvarez has been hurt, so we haven't seen him. Brett Beatty's been underwhelming. And Brandon Nimmo has been solid, but Brandon Nimmo's not like a guy that you look at as a free agent and be like, I want to play with Brandon Nimmo. Like that's exactly why I always want to come here. I always wanted to play with Brandon Nimmo. You come here because you want to be with a team that can potentially win a title, and Soto has a World Series title under his belt already. He seems to be trying to get that Yankees team to get it. I don't think the Yankees will get a World Series title this year, but he's trying to drag them sort of into this contention window, and if he continues to hit like he has been hitting, then there's a good chance that he's a serious MVP candidate, if nothing else. So he's going to hit free agency. He comes to the Mets. Why would he come here? So throwing it at Cohen, just going to bring back around to my point, throwing all this at Cohen does not feel particularly earned. He has not earned this level of resentment or of job of like scrutiny and saying like, oh well, what are you doing for this team exactly? I do not understand it. I'll never understand why people just kind of like throw stuff at an owner who's done, in my view, everything right. He has said and done everything that he can to kind of bring this team over and make them into a contender. Have all of his signings worked? Well, no, but he's also been advised by various players and front office personnel, and I have to throw the blame also at them. David Stearns has built this team. It wasn't really much of a team on paper, and you were looking at it and saying like, okay, well, this is a team that theoretically could win maybe 82 games, but I don't really know if they could win that many more. At current pace, they don't look like they're on pace to win 82, more like 75. But we'll see how the season progresses when they get some players like Senga and Alvarez back eventually. But at present, it's been a pretty ugly period, and people are sort of turning their eyes towards Cohen and saying, Steve Cohen, why is this? How is this your fault? Well, I'll tell you how this is your fault. It's not Steve Cohen's fault. Don't blame Steve Cohen for the mess that the Mets are in right now. It is. You can throw it at a lot of people. You can throw it at Edwin Diaz. You can throw it at the Mets bullpen. You can throw it at the Mets stars for not playing better. But to expect Steve Cohen to somehow do what exactly, I'm not entirely sure. I guess throw money at the problem and make it all better is then you have a fairy godmother complex. Then you're expecting someone to wave a wand to make it all better for you, and it's not going to be like that. Did Steve Cohen create unreasonable expectations? Perhaps. When you have that much money, it's fair to assume that your team's going to play at a level that is incongruous with that kind of level of success and that money. You expect that. I don't really think it's Cohen's problem or Cohen's fault. That's just me. If you feel differently, come to some sort of conclusion. I've yet to see anything that really resembles like a coherent point, other than to say that Cohen should sell the team. And to someone who has must have obviously less financial resources than Cohen, it's a great plan. Sure, smart move. Sell it to someone with less money, with less opportunity to make things happen for the team. Great idea. Steve Cohen should never sell his team, in my opinion. I really hope that he is the Mets owner for the foreseeable future, and it goes to his kids and his grandkids and whoever. That team desperately needed an owner like Steve Cohen to come in. Cohen has infused this team with a lot of cash. They are in a weird period. It's undeniable that they are in a weird period right now, and they need some semblance of direction. But that falls on other people as well. Cohen's the head of the table, but I cannot throw all the blame at Steve Cohen, nor would I want to. Steve Cohen, keep doing what you're doing. If we see a casino at some point, great. I'm happy for you. Hope that gets done. Hope we build some kind of metropolitan sports complex next to Citi Field. Whatever you want to do, man, it's fine with me. I do not feel like Steve Cohen should fall on a sword for this team and say this is my fault, when every objectable reason says that the reason for their struggles has been on the players and on the fact that they are just in a weird area right now where they just don't know. They have players who are like in the process of leaving, declining, still rising up, still getting better. That they're in a weird position right now, and they're in the first year of president of baseball operations who came in as trying to sort of fix and stabilize this organization. And I do not want to say any of this should fall on David Stearns, but Stearns is probably more of a scapegoat than I think Steve Cohen. And it's just because Steve Cohen is paying the bills that Cohen's fallen under fire. So find some other object of derision, I would say, and leave Steve Cohen out of it.
Thank you for listening to Mike's Mets Podcast. Please be sure to follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Finally, please also follow the podcast Twitter, which is Mike's Mets Pod, all one word. Appreciate your time and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening. Let's go, Mets.